The day the sky broke. The morning began like any other day on Earth. The sun rose over calm cities, and people went about their lives without knowing that history was about to change. Children walked to school, traffic lights blinked, and radios played cheerful songs. Everything felt normal, peaceful, ordinary. But far above the blue sky, something moved, something no human eye could see yet. Commander Elias Ward stood inside the Global Defense Command Center in Nevada, sipping cold coffee. His shift had been quiet for hours, too quiet. The radar screens glowed in front of him, showing clear skies across the world. He leaned back, tired, thinking about his wife waiting at home. Then a soft alarm beeped just once, small, almost harmless. Elias frowned. The technician beside him tapped the screen, confused. "Satellite 3 just went dark," she said. No signal at all. Elias stood, his heart beating faster. "Try backup channels," he ordered, but before she could answer, 3 more satellites vanished from the grid. The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the screens as more dots blinked out. 5, 10, 20 gone. Then the sky itself began to change. People in Tokyo, New York, and London looked up as the blue faded into strange shadows. At first they thought it was an eclipse, but the dark shapes grew larger, spreading across the horizon. Blocking the sun, phones came out, news cameras started streaming. Social media flooded with words like UFOs, shadows, and invasion. Within minutes, the world realized the truth. It wasn't clouds, it wasn't an eclipse. It was an armada, thousands of ships, black and metallic, each the size of a mountain, entered the atmosphere in silent formation. They moved like living things, gliding across the sky without sound. Their hulls shimmered with strange symbols that pulsed with cold light. In the command center, Elias whispered, "My God." The screens went red with warning signals. Communications collapsed, satellites jammed. The president's voice broke through the static. "This is not a drill. All nations, prepare for global emergency." Every military base in the world scrambled. Fighters launched, missiles armed, but no one knew who they were facing. No message came, no demand, no sign of communication. Just silence, then thunder. The first strike came over the Pacific. A column of white fire descended from orbit, vaporizing an entire fleet of naval ships. Cities along the coast saw a wall of light rise like dawn, then vanish into dust. Elias gripped the console. "We need retaliation," he shouted, but their missile systems couldn't lock on. The alien ships moved faster than anything humans had ever seen. Every second another city burned. Sydney, Los Angeles, Shanghai, bright lights in the night. Then gone. Humanity had no chance to speak, no chance to surrender, deep beneath the chaos. Inside a secret military mountain base known only to a few, something stirred, a program hidden for decades, forgotten by most, the Phoenix Protocol. Dr. Mara Liu watched the live feeds in horror. She had designed the Phoenix as an emergency defense system powered by orbital plasma cores. It was supposed to be theoretical, never used, never needed. But now it was Earth's last hope. Her assistant ran toward her, shouting, "Ma'am, command just sent authorization codes." Mara froze, the meaning hitting her like lightning. "They're activating it," she whispered. Back in Nevada, Elias received the same signal. The command channel flashed red, displaying a single word, Phoenix. He didn't hesitate. "Link me to Liu," he ordered. Her voice crackled through the static, soft but steady. "Commander, the Phoenix is risky. If we fire before full sync, it could tear the orbit apart." Elias looked at the sky feed above the command table, watching alien ships hover over burning cities. He replied, "Then we don't have a choice." Outside, the invasion grew worse. Hundreds of alien drones descended, raining beams of plasma, slicing through buildings. Soldiers fought back with everything they had, tanks, jets, railguns, but the weapons barely scratched the enemy's armor. For every alien destroyed, 100 more took its place. Yet humanity did not give up. People helped strangers in the streets, rescuing the wounded, carrying children to shelters. Even as the world burned, there was courage in every corner of Earth. And high above, in orbit, strange movements began. The Phoenix satellites turned toward the alien armada, power building, light gathering at their cores. Mara's hands trembled as she typed commands. "All systems charging," she said. 80% power. Elias stood silent, staring at the massive fleet on the screen. He could see them now, colossal black ships forming a wall around Earth. It was like the sky itself was breaking. A low hum filled the control room. Lights flickered, the ground trembled. "Commander," Mara's voice came again. "We're ready." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all humanity on his shoulders. "Fire the first charge," he said. Far above the clouds, the night turned bright. A beam of white plasma tore through the heavens, cutting across the sky like a burning sword. It struck one of the alien ships clean through, splitting it in half. The explosion echoed across the upper atmosphere like thunder. The world watched, billions of eyes staring at the impossible. For the first time since the invasion began, an alien ship fell from the sky, burning, and humanity dared to hope. Elias looked at the screen, eyes burning with determination. "Let's make them remember us," he whispered. The battle for Earth had just begun. The Phoenix Protocol. Smoke rose from broken cities as the first alien ship fell burning through the atmosphere. People cheered, cried, and shouted in disbelief. For the first time, humanity had struck back. But inside the command centers and bunkers across the world, leaders knew the truth. The battle had only just begun. Commander Elias Ward stood before the holographic war map, his eyes fixed on the glowing red symbols that marked alien positions. There were thousands of them still in orbit, more arriving every minute. The single victory from the Phoenix strike had brought humanity hope, but not safety. He turned to the communication screen, where Dr. Mara Liu's tired face appeared. Illuminated by the blue light of her console, "We hit one of their ships," Elias said, his voice steady. "Can we do it again?" Mara hesitated, her hands shaking over the controls. "The system wasn't built for continuous fire, Commander. It drains the entire orbital power grid each time we use it." Elias frowned. "Then we find more power." Her tone turned grim. "If we overload the Phoenix core, it could explode. You'd take out half the satellites and maybe the planet's upper atmosphere." Elias met her gaze through the screen. "If we don't, there won't be a planet left to save." Above them, the alien fleet began to shift, their dark formations reorganizing. They had seen the human weapon, and they were preparing to respond. One of the massive command ships released thousands of drones, silver and black, moving like a swarm of insects. They surrounded Earth's orbit, hunting for the source of the plasma fire. In the underground base, alarms blared. "Incoming orbital strikes!" someone shouted. Mara and her team ran through the corridors, the mountain walls shaking with each impact. Chunks of concrete fell as lights flickered. She reached the Phoenix control chamber just as another blast rocked the bunker. Her assistant, a young engineer named Kato, screamed over the noise. "They're targeting our energy relays." Mara gritted her teeth. "Reroute through secondary channels. We can't let the grid collapse." Meanwhile, in Nevada, Elias coordinated the world's defense networks. Every surviving fighter jet, drone, and missile was being linked into a single command web. The Phoenix Protocol wasn't just a weapon. It was a system that united Earth's defenses under one mind. He watched as air bases from every continent connected, their feeds flickering to life. Pilots saluted through their cameras, soldiers loaded heavy railguns. "Orbital drones rose from hidden launch tubes, Commander," one of his officers said. "Global link established," Elias nodded. "Then let's make Earth fight as one." Across the world, resistance began to grow. In Paris, anti-air batteries opened fire on descending alien carriers. In Moscow, old nuclear bunkers powered up again after decades of silence. In India, scientists transmitted hacking codes to confuse alien sensors. Every nation fought under one signal. One message, Phoenix rising back in the mountain base. Mara watched the power readings climb. "We're reaching full charge," she said. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with focus. Kato whispered, "If this fails, we'll overload the entire orbital grid." Mara replied softly, "Then let it fail after we fire." Outside, alien ships descended through the clouds, their plasma beams cutting across mountains and forests. The ground shook like thunder, and fire spread across the horizon. Elias looked at the satellite feed. "Target the largest ship in the formation," he ordered. "Ready to fire," Mara said, hands on the controls. "Do it," Elias whispered. The Phoenix satellites lit up again, this time brighter than before. A storm of plasma energy formed above the planet, swirling like lightning caught in a storm. The light reflected in Mara's eyes as she pressed the activation key. A blinding beam shot through the clouds, splitting into 3 streaks that arced across the heavens. Each found its mark. 3 alien warships exploded in brilliant white fire. Their remains falling like stars, people across the world stopped what they were doing. For a moment, the night sky glowed with victory. Children pointed from rooftops. Soldiers shouted from trenches. Humanity had done it again. But as the last explosion faded, the earth began to tremble. Mara's eyes widened. "Oh no," she whispered. The overload had begun. Energy surged back through the power relays, melting circuits and shorting out entire networks. Sparks burst from panels. Smoke filled the air. Kato yelled, "We're losing control. Shut down the secondary reactors." Mara screamed. But it was too late. The Phoenix satellites above Earth started to flicker. Some exploding under pressure still. The core system held, barely. Elias' voice came through the radio. "Status report." Mara coughed, covering her mouth from the smoke. "We're alive, Commander. But we can't fire again for at least 2 hours." Elias looked at the orbital feed. The alien fleet had slowed down. Regrouping, they had taken damage, but they were learning. Their movements grew sharper, more strategic, like predators adjusting to their prey. One of his officers turned pale. "Commander, alien reinforcements detected. Entering solar orbit." Elias clenched his fists. "How many?" The answer came softly. "Too many to count." He stared at the sky feed, at the endless black ships approaching Earth. Behind them, the stars were fading, he whispered. "They think we're weak. They think we'll break." Then he looked toward the red glow of the Phoenix power readout and said quietly, "Then let's show them how humans break." In the bunker, Mara leaned against the wall, exhausted but alive. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "The day's not over yet." Outside, the burning wrecks of alien ships rained down like meteors, and for one night, the sky of Earth was filled with both fire and hope. But in the cold dark of space, the alien armada began to move again, and somewhere deep inside their mothership, a signal was sent, a call for vengeance. The war for Earth was far from over. The sky burns red. The world no longer slept. Every nation, every city, every survivor now lived under a sky that glowed with fire and fear. The alien fleet had paused its full assault, but everyone knew it was only the calm before the storm. Commander Elias Ward stood at the edge of the underground command deck, his face lit by the holographic screens that showed the Earth above. Half of the planet's satellites were gone. Communication was unstable, and major cities were still burning. But through the smoke of destruction, one truth had spread among humanity. The Phoenix Protocol worked. They had wounded the enemy, and that was enough to ignite hope. Dr. Mara Liu hadn't slept in 2 days. Her team worked non-stop to repair the damaged reactors that powered the orbital weapons. Every spark of electricity, every working line of code could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Her fingers moved fast across the keyboard. "We've stabilized the plasma conduits," she said. Voice trembling from exhaustion, her assistant Kato replied, "But power levels are still low. It'll take another hour to reach full charge." "Then we have 1 hour to stay alive," she muttered. High above the planet, in the darkness of orbit, the alien ships moved like shadows from their command vessel. The alien overlord Zareth Kal watched Earth with cold, unfeeling eyes. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds. None had resisted this long. Their technology was superior, their armies infinite, and yet these humans refused to kneel. He turned to his second-in-command, a towering being of silver armor. "Prepare the cleansing wave," Zareth Kal hissed, his voice echoing like metal scraping stone. "Burn their skies red." In the next moment, hundreds of alien warships descended into lower orbit, their underbellies opening like monstrous flowers. From them poured beams of crimson plasma that cut through clouds and continents. The world lit up as the bombardment began again. The sky turned red, the oceans boiled, and cities vanished beneath waves of fire. In the command center, alarm screamed, "Mass strike incoming!" Someone shouted. Elias slammed his hand on the console. "Activate defensive grid now." Mara's voice came through the intercom. Calm but urgent. "Phoenix satellites are online. Targeting coordinates now." Seconds later, streaks of bright plasma tore upward from the Earth. Meeting the alien beams head-on, the collision exploded in the stratosphere, shaking the ground miles below from space. It looked like the planet was bleeding light. The human plasma beams sliced through several alien carriers, each one bursting into fragments of molten debris. But for every enemy destroyed, 2 more ships took its place. Elias clenched his jaw. "We can't hold this pace," he said. "They're overwhelming the shield grid." "Then we make them choke on our fire," Mara replied, typing faster, rerouting power to the orbital arrays. Across the globe, humanity fought with everything it had left. In the ruins of Tokyo, ground soldiers aimed prototype railguns at descending drones. In the frozen plains of Siberia, missile silos launched nuclear warheads toward the sky. In the deserts of Egypt, an ancient power plant once forgotten roared back to life, feeding the Phoenix network. The entire planet fought as one heartbeat, every human, every hand, standing together against extinction in orbit. Zareth Kal watched his ships burn. He could feel the loss of his warriors through the psychic link that connected his kind. He had never experienced resistance like this. His eyes narrowed. "They are primitives," he growled. "How do they resist the Dominion?" His second-in-command responded, "They fight without fear, Lord. They are not like the others." Zareth Kal's voice turned to ice. "Then we erase their courage with fire, back on Earth." Mara's team finally restored full power, all reactors stable. Kato shouted. Mara exhaled in relief. "Commander, we're ready for full-scale retaliation." Elias didn't hesitate. "Then let's give them something to remember." The Phoenix satellites rotated in perfect synchronization, their barrels glowing white-hot. "Fire!" Elias ordered. In the next instant, a storm of plasma erupted from orbit. Hundreds of beams shot upward in unison, painting the sky in burning red and white. Alien ships exploded by the dozen, their fragments raining down like falling stars. People across the Earth looked up from shelters and bunkers, their faces lit by the glow of battle. For the first time in history, humanity was not running, they were fighting back. But the victory was not without cost. Each plasma burst drained the power grid. Every shot pushed the Phoenix closer to collapse. Mara wiped sweat from her face. "We're overheating!" Elias shouted. "Hold the line!" Then suddenly, the largest alien ship fired back. A massive beam of energy, wider than a mountain, cut through the atmosphere, striking near the Andes. The explosion was so powerful that it shook half the planet. In the chaos, communication lines broke. Mara screamed through static, "Commander!" "The alien flagship. It's generating an energy field. We can't target it." Elias stared at the display, watching the readings spike. Then something caught his eye, a strange pattern in the signal. He leaned closer. "Mara, that energy field, it's not just a shield. It's a relay." Her eyes widened. "A relay?" "Yes," Elias said, realization dawning. "It's drawing power from somewhere else. We find that source and we end this, outside." The sky burned brighter than ever. The battle between human plasma fire and alien bombardment turned the night into day. The air smelled of ash and ozone, and the ground trembled like the planet itself was screaming. Mara looked out from the base window at the horizon, glowing red. Her voice softened. "If we must die, at least we'll die fighting." Elias answered through the radio, calm and steady. "No, Doctor, we're not dying today." He turned to his officers. "Prepare recon ships. We're going to find that relay." As the alien fleet regrouped, the humans prepared their next move. The Phoenix lights dimmed, charging for another attack. The war had reached its breaking point, and somewhere in the burning sky, between fire and stars, humanity's destiny waited. The world was on the edge of destruction, but so was the enemy. And the sky, once blue and gentle, now burned red with the fury of humankind. The last command. The world had become a battlefield of fire and shadow. For days, the alien armada rained destruction on Earth. But humanity refused to fall. The Phoenix Protocol had turned the tide again and again. Yet everyone knew it could not last forever. The reactors were failing, power reserves were nearly gone, and the alien fleet above was still endless. Commander Elias Ward stood inside the command bunker, watching the holographic sky filled with red and white lights. Each flash on the map was another explosion, another city, another sacrifice. He pressed his hand on the console, his reflection flickering in the dim light. "How long can we hold?" he asked, his voice low. An officer answered quietly. "At this rate, sir, maybe 6 hours." Elias closed his eyes. "Then 6 hours is all we need." Far above, the alien flagship hovered like a black sun. Zareth Kal, the alien overlord, stared at the blue planet below. He felt anger, an emotion rare for his kind. This world had resisted longer than any other. He turned to his generals and said, "Prepare the final wave. We will erase their oceans, burn their sky, and end their defiance deep underground." Dr. Mara Liu worked tirelessly beside the glowing Phoenix core. The room hummed with unstable power. Arcs of light crackled across the control panels. Cato ran to her side, sweat dripping from his forehead. "Ma'am, the reactors are at critical load. We can't sustain another full charge." Mara looked up, her eyes tired but fierce. "Then we don't need another charge. We need the last one." She opened a sealed terminal and entered a code she swore she'd never use. On the screen, red letters appeared. "Phoenix overload sequence armed." "Doctor," Cato gasped, "that will detonate the entire grid." Mara nodded slowly. "It will also ignite the upper atmosphere. The shockwave will burn everything in orbit." Cato froze, realizing what she meant. "That includes us." Mara's voice softened. "If Earth must burn to survive, then let it burn bright enough to blind the stars." Elias received the same code moments later. He stared at the message. "Phoenix overload," his jaw tightening. He called Mara through the comms, her image flickering on the screen. "Doctor, you're suggesting we turn Earth's atmosphere into a weapon?" "Yes," she said calmly. "It's our only chance. The alien fleet is using the atmosphere as a shield to deflect plasma fire. If we overload the core and ignite the layer, the entire orbit will become a trap." Elias was silent for a moment, then whispered, "You'll kill everyone on the surface." She looked down. "Not if we control the ignition height. The lower layers might survive. Some of us might live." The decision weighed heavy on him. He looked around at his exhausted team, soldiers, scientists, people who had already lost everything. Then he said quietly, "Do it." Outside, alien drones swarmed across the sky, destroying the last human satellites. The ground trembled as their beams hit military bunkers and cities. The air was thick with smoke. The oceans steamed under the heat of their bombardment. The world was on the edge of breaking in the bunker. The lights dimmed as all remaining power was redirected to the Phoenix core. Massive turbines roared to life, shaking the ground. Mara's team worked in silence, typing commands, sealing power conduits. The countdown began, 30 minutes to overload. Elias moved through the command deck, checking his team. He stopped at a young soldier watching the screen of her family's city, now in flames. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said softly, "We'll make this count for them." She nodded with tears in her eyes. Whispering, "For Earth," far above, the alien armada began their final descent. Zareth Kal smiled coldly. "They resist until the end," he said. "Then let them die with their courage." His ships aligned in perfect formation, ready to strike every remaining stronghold. Mara watched the power levels rise past the danger line. Cato screamed over the noise, "We're losing containment." Mara shouted back, "Keep it steady. Just a few more minutes." Energy sparks exploded across the room, burning circuits. Elias's voice came through the static. "Doctor, report." She replied, "Almost ready, Commander." "Prepare for ignition." In orbit, the first wave of alien plasma fired toward Earth. The beams lit the night sky in crimson, destroying everything they touched. Elias shouted to his officers, "Activate planetary shields." The defense grid flickered to life, thin blue domes covering what was left of human cities. But the domes wouldn't hold long. Mara looked at the countdown. 10 seconds left, she whispered. "For humanity," and pressed the final key. The Phoenix core exploded with light. A beam of pure energy shot upward, spreading across the atmosphere like a sunrise of fire. The ignition wave reached the sky, where it met the alien armada head-on in a single moment. The heavens turned into a burning ocean. Every alien ship caught in orbit was consumed by the storm. Flames spread like rivers of light through the void, tearing ships apart. The entire sky glowed red and gold, as if Earth itself had become a star. In the command center, Elias shielded his eyes as the blast shook the world. Screens went dark, alarms died. Silence filled the air. He opened his eyes slowly, the glow fading outside the bunker entrance. The enemy fleet was gone. Nothing remained but ashes drifting among the stars. He tried to contact Mara. "Dr. Liu, come in." No response. Only static. He whispered softly, "You did it." The bunker doors opened, revealing a world covered in ash and fire. The air shimmered with heat, but the bombardment had stopped. The silence was almost holy. Elias stepped out into the dawn. The sun rose over a wounded world, red and bright. He looked up and said quietly, "The sky burned for them, now it burns for us." Behind him, soldiers and survivors emerged, their faces dirty but alive. Humanity had survived the impossible. But as the wind carried the ashes of the alien fleet across the horizon, Elias knew this wasn't the end. He looked to the stars and whispered, "They'll come again." Then, raising his head high, he added, "And we'll be ready." The last command had been given, and the sky still burned with the memory of humanity's fury. Among the stars, they remember, the war was over. But victory had a terrible price. The cities lay in ruins. The oceans boiled in places where the firestorm touched them. Yet, from the ashes of destruction, life began to move again. Humans, burned but unbroken, stepped out into a world reborn through pain. Commander Elias Ward stood on the ridge where the old capital once stood. He looked across the wasteland, where the sky shimmered faintly. A faint blue hue covered the horizon, a sign that Earth's atmosphere was healing. He took a deep breath of the thin, dusty air and said softly, "We're still here." Beside him, a small group of survivors worked tirelessly, rebuilding shelters, setting up solar towers, planting new life. Each of them carried the weight of the fallen, but also the hope of a beginning. Dr. Mara Lu's name was now written into legend. Her sacrifice had saved the planet. Though her body was never found, in every rebuilt city, a single word was engraved in stone: Phoenix. It became the symbol of the new world, a reminder that humanity could rise from its own ashes. Years passed. Children grew up listening to the stories of the Skyfire, of the day when humans fought gods and won, and though they did not see the war, they carried its fire in their hearts. Science returned, cities rose again, and the stars once feared became beacons of wonder. But not everyone could forget. Elias, now older and slower, still felt the shadows of the past. At night he would look at the sky, the stars brighter than ever after the cleansing fire. He often spoke to the stars as if they were listening. "Mara, if you can hear me, we did it. The world lived, far beyond Earth's orbit." Among the remains of the alien fleet, something stirred. Wreckage floated silently. Vast ships torn apart. Twisted metal glowing faintly among the debris. One structure still pulsed with dim light. The command core of the alien flagship. Inside, fragments of Zareth Kal's consciousness flickered like broken circuits. He had not truly died. His mind had been preserved within a shard of alien code. He remembered the fire, the voice of the human commander, the defiance in their final moment, and somewhere deep in his fractured memory he whispered, "Humanity must not be underestimated." On Earth, a new project had begun, the Ascension program. Humanity was no longer content to stay grounded. They would go to the stars, not as victims or wanderers, but as survivors. Massive orbital stations were being built from the ruins of alien wrecks. Ships that once invaded Earth were now stripped, studied, and turned into vessels for exploration. Young engineers and scientists worked with boundless energy. Every circuit they repaired, every system they reprogrammed, was a victory over the past. The scars of the war had turned into fuel for the next step. Humanity had learned alien technology faster than anyone expected. They were no longer just rebuilding, they were evolving. Elias stood on the launch deck of the first human starship, Horizon 1. Its hull shimmered silver under the dawn, built from a fusion of human steel and alien alloys. He ran his hand along its surface, feeling the hum of new life beneath. Captain Reyes, the ship's commander, approached and saluted. Permission to depart. "Sir," she said with pride. Elias smiled faintly. "You have it, Captain. Go make them remember who we are." As the engines roared to life, the ground shook with power, flames burst from the launch pads, and the ship rose slowly higher and higher. Through the thinning clouds, people all across the world stopped what they were doing to watch. For the first time in centuries, humanity wasn't escaping death. They were chasing the future. From orbit, Earth looked fragile but beautiful. The scars of war were still visible, but so were the green patches of rebirth. Captain Reyes looked down and whispered, "We did it," her co-pilot smiled. "And this is just the beginning." Back on the surface, Elias watched until the ship vanished into the upper sky. He felt peace for the first time in years. He closed his eyes, hearing the distant echo of Mara's voice in the wind. "Don't look back, Elias. The stars are waiting." Far in the void, the remnants of the alien network began to stir. Machines rebuilt themselves, faint signals pulsing in coded rhythm. Zareth Kal's fragmented mind whispered to the silence, "They rise from ashes. We rise from shadows." The war was not forgotten, it was only paused. As Horizon 1 crossed the edge of the solar system, a faint signal reached its sensors. Repeating over and over, it was in human code, yet altered. Like a reflection in water, Reyes frowned. "Sir, we're picking up a transmission. It's familiar." The message played through the speakers, 3 words spoken in static. "We are coming." Back on Earth, Elias looked to the stars. He didn't know why, but a cold shiver passed through him. He raised his eyes and said quietly, "Then so are we." The camera of history pulled back, showing a blue planet glowing faintly, surrounded by the remains of war and the sparks of rebirth. The voice of humanity echoed into the dark void. "We are the children of fire, the heirs of ashes, the dreamers of the impossible among the stars. We remember who we are." The stars shone brighter that night. As if listening, the sky that once broke had now become a bridge. And from the heart of humanity rose a promise carved in flame. "We survived the fire, now we bring the light."